Hey everybody, it's Helen Hillix, your host, and today I am really excited to talk about the topic of make this shelter time the richest time of your life. And that may seem absolutely crazy to some of you who are unemployed, and I'm using the word richest time of your life, but I mean that in a really deep way, that rich in terms of feeling all the delicious experiences that we can create even without any money, that we can create rich, meaningful experiences that we'll never forget our whole lives long. And if you're one of those people that doesn't even have food to eat, you're probably not going to be listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube video to start with. But I want to say my heart goes out to you, and that I feel for you. And I'm not trying to minimize the financial or even basic health needs that some people are experiencing. But for those of us who are able to relax into knowing we're going to have a place to sleep and food to eat, those of us can then move into a whole other way of dealing with this time of sheltering at home. So while I honor the struggles, I also want to offer the opportunity that it really can be an incredibly rich time of your life. I was on a call this morning with some women in a sacred circle experience, and they were quoting Shakespeare saying, quote, "Nothing is good or bad. Our thoughts make it so," end quote. And it's so true that right now, during this time of pandemic world chaos, upheaval, that we get to manage our minds, we get to notice our thoughts, and we get to remind ourselves that this is all part of a natural process of evolution. And evolution is happening all the time, every day, and sometimes there is something huge worldwide like this that reminds us of how little control we do have over the external things in our lives. But we do have control over the internal things in our lives. And I want to encourage you to take time to make this, as much as you possibly can, one of the richest times of your lives. And I've got 8 ideas today, really simple things that you can take a look at and set intentions around that can make you end up on the other side feeling like you've really used this time well. And I've talked about this on another podcast, but the idea of setting a meeting with your family, and your family can be just you, or your family can be you and people that you connect to on Zoom, or your friends. It can be you and your partner, you and your partner and your kids, you and your kids, whatever the configuration is. You can sit down with them and talk about what you want to do with this time. And these are conversations that most of us are not used to having, even with our partners, let alone our whole family. But it's like, what do we want to do with this time? Who do we want to be on the other side of this sheltering at home time for many of us? Not everybody is sheltering at home. So let's say on the other side of this pandemic, sit down with your family and address these real core issues of who do you want to be? Who do we want to be as a unit? What do we want to create during this time? What do we want to offer each other? What do we want to focus on? And I just want to talk about, I'm not naming these as goals, because I want to be careful that people don't think, oh my God, I've got to work and achieve this and achieve this. I think it's a time of real reflection where we get to evaluate, as I was saying, who do we want to be? What do we want to focus our energy on? What do we want to create together? And we get to remember that that's up to whatever we feel guided to say and do. There is no right or wrong in doing this. And that's a real opportunity. So let's start with the first thing is, that's the first intention, is to sit down in a family meeting and ask yourselves those meaningful questions. And what my husband and I did was, we sat down, we categorized things in different areas and made it really simple for ourselves. And this is something that you can add to, every day. And, one of them that we held as a very high priority, which is number 2 in the categories, is intimacy intentions. How do we want to spend our time together? Do we want to develop better communication skills? Do we want to have more intimate sexual experiences with one another? What kind of intimacy do we want to develop? And of course, I'm talking now between partners, but you can also talk about, within your family. How do we want to create more intimacy? And intimacy comes from knowing each other deeply. So an intimacy exercise you could do with your family, and whether it's your family of you and children or you only adults, you can talk to each other about how you're feeling, about what feelings are coming up during this experience. Are you having fears? Are you having excitement that, things get to really change? I'm excited. Maybe the kids are happy to have you home and they're not scared at all. They're just happy to have you home. Maybe your husband is having a tremendous amount of stress because he's not working right now, and your family is feeling the effects of that. There are so many possibilities in the way that people are feeling. So it's a time when you can build a tremendous amount of intimacy and practice asking each other how you're feeling and what kind of support you need. And one thing I want to throw in there is, if you can, now is a great time to get some counseling, because you've got the time to do it. Many of you have the time to do it. Some of you absolutely do not, but many of you have the chance to do it now. And it's a wonderful way of helping you develop new skills, seeing new things about yourself, and really opening up to the idea that it's a time of change and you can do it, but you need support. So however you choose to embrace intimacy, you can go on my podcasts and YouTube. You can go on so many other avenues. I'm doing a summit, which I will put in the comments for this podcast and video, called Sacred Sexuality Revealed: Secrets to Passionate Intimacy, Deeper Connection, and Lasting Desire. And at first I thought, what a weird time to launch something like this. And then I thought very quickly afterwards, no, it's the perfect time. People need information. They need guidance. And there are 30 interviews with experts that can help you with this very thing. And even though it's focused on romantic couples, it absolutely will teach you skills and tools that are applicable with whatever relationships you're trying to develop intimacy in. So intimacy intentions is everything from, what would you like for dinner tonight? I really want to hear you, and I really want to understand what you like, to what movie should we watch, to developing different ways of having sacred sexuality, from one extreme to the other. But right now, love is so important, and love requires intimacy, and intimacy requires understanding each other. And how much time do you really take every day to understand those around you? I know I can take more time, and that is an intention of mine during this experience. I was just thinking that tonight, it's a Saturday, tonight we have organized a Zoom call with not only all of our local family that we really miss connecting to right now, but I thought, why not invite our nieces and nephews and siblings and their partners and so forth in Missouri and Kansas, where some of our family lives. And it was I'm so thrilled. It's like having a family reunion. And it's like, why don't we think of doing that regularly? Why does it take a pandemic to think of doing that? So I wanted to offer you that in case you're having the same experience, that, maybe you're having Zoom calls with the people that you're used to talking to constantly. But what about enhancing the intimacy that you have in Georgia too? There's somebody in Georgia. What about having a Zoom call with everybody in your family, from my 93-year-old father to, all the way down to the children of my nieces and nephews. It's like, let's get us all together. Let's develop more intimacy. Let's develop more familiarity so that, again, on the other side of this pandemic, we have closer relationships, not just with our intimate partners, but developing some experience of intimacy with a broader support system of people that we care about. So, I could talk the whole time about that and different ideas about how to do intimacy, but you get the picture. That you connect to other people and you care and you listen and you ask them how they're doing and you have compassion and you encourage each other. Anyway, let's go on to the number 3 is personal intentions. Set some personal intentions for yourself during this time. And I go into more detail about other things, but it's like, how do you want to feel about yourself on the other side of this? I have set, quite a few intentions for myself. A lot of them are around health goals for myself, about getting into better shape physically, and being highlighted by this pandemic is the reality that our physical strength is incredibly important. And, people who smoke, who overeat, who don't exercise, who eat a lot of sugar, who drink alcohol. All these things that we know in the back of our minds are not good for us, right? And I talk about as a separate issue of health intention. So I'm not going to go more into that, but I want to just say, set personal intentions for yourself. And it kind of relates to the intimacy intentions. It's like, get to know you. Get to know what's important to you. Take it on individually as well as a unit. Take it on individually of who you want to be on the other side, and really spend some time thinking about that. Another intention that I have, which I didn't list as a separate one, so I'm just going to throw it into the personal intentions, is to read more. I've been listening to or listen to podcasts. That's, audibles or whatever, but to really reach out and get more input, get more information, get more knowledge, make that an intention, is to get more knowledge. Because sometimes we get so busy doing that we don't think about improving ourselves on that level of information seeking. So that's another personal intention that I have. And you can set your own. It might be, again, this is under health intentions, but, floss your teeth. I love the dentist said to I don't know if he said it to me or my husband or somebody, only floss the teeth you want to keep. And every time I say it, it still makes me laugh. But you know what? That is a habit that a lot of people don't have. And you could take that on as a personal intention, is to floss the teeth you want to keep. And it can go all the way from that seemingly kind of funny one to the deepest intentions to meditate every day. And, I did not make that. I'm going to add that to the list of spiritual development is going to be my 9th one. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But just to embrace the idea that you can set personal intentions for yourself during this time. And I want to say why I'm not using the word personal goals. And the reason is that I think our world is way too focused on goal setting and accomplishment, and way too little focused on the process of living. the process of acknowledging that I'm making progress every day. I'm moving toward intentions, and that's the most important thing. I may not have reached my goal yet, but I am moving toward that. And that gives us the strength to keep moving forward. If we're constantly comparing ourselves to, oh my God, I haven't reached that weight goal yet. I'm a loser. I haven't made that much money yet. I'm a loser. I said I was going to floss my teeth and I haven't. I'm a loser. And that's our way of living is, accomplishment and achievement and competition and comparison. And I want to get rid of that during this time. So I'm using the word intention on purpose. So take time to set some personal intentions for yourself. And family, the next one is family intentions. What does your family want to focus on? And, your family intention might be to have more fun. And then you get to list, the ways that you're going to have more fun. Your family intention could be to respect each other more. And then you get to have family goals that everybody contributes to. And I use the word goals there, but I mean intentions. Family commitments, to treat each other in a particular way. And I think almost every family can use that one, is to enhance your mutual respect, your mutual support. And this is a really important one, is to enhance the mutual support in your family, to have everybody realize. And when I say mutual support, I don't mean I help you and you help me. I mean that we are a unit and everybody gets to contribute to that whole, to the whole family. You making your bed is a contribution to the whole family. You looking around and noticing that there are glasses on the table that need to go to the counter, and just doing that is you showing you're caring about the whole, and that's mutual support. And even the smallest child to the most elderly person can offer mutual support in some way at their own level. And when you do, how do you feel, guys? I mean, I know you know this already, but you feel awesome about yourself. If you are offering mutual support to your family, and I just have to plug my computer in here. If you are offering mutual support to your family, this is going to expand back to your job and to your community and everything. If you realize that if everybody offers everything they have, that it supports everybody back to you. If you do everything you can to support your family in terms of caring and understanding and offering to help with physical tasks and so forth, and what can you do to support one another? You're going to be in a family unit that is thriving. And, I always correct my clients, who, especially the women who say, I asked him to help me. I asked them to help me. No, it's not helping me. It's not, your job is not everything. Everybody's job is everything. So I always encourage them to say, we're a family unit and each person gets to do their part. And I think now more than ever, it's like with the kids home all the time, you have an opportunity to really make a difference there in that way of thinking. That in order for the whole family to be in a healthy place, everybody has to do their part. And, I hear so many women who are completely overstressed because they take on the whole. They work full time. They take on helping the kids with their homework. They take on the laundry. They take on the housework. And, the husband works hard too and comes home and watches TV. And that's not every family by any means. But there is often a dynamic of the parents are so stressed out. And even if the husband is helping, he's stressed out because the kids often are not doing as much as they could to help out. And this goes back to my last week's podcast of, we believe that it's good to avoid adversity. And we've taught our kids, we don't want our kids to have to work hard. We want them to enjoy their childhoods, because we didn't. We had to work. And we somehow have gotten the idea that that's a bad thing, rather than saying, what, it's good for the kids to have to do chores at home and their homework. And yeah, it's not all fun and games. There'll be time for that too. But we get to really evaluate what are the messages that we're giving our family, and whether it's just our partner and we don't have small kids, like in my case, or whether it's that we do have kids. We get to evaluate what are the messages we're giving each other and how do we want to adjust those. I already mentioned health intentions, but that's, number 6 is health intentions. And I'm talking about that on the physical level. But every single person can take that on. And you may be one of those people that already was taking your health seriously. But because there isn't a pandemic of obesity and lack of exercise in the American culture anyway, I know this is something that many of you could benefit from really taking a look at during this shelter at home time. And I know that there are many, many live exercise opportunities right now online. The gyms are closed, and most of the gym owners are online, offering you ways of staying fit and encouragements to do this or that kind of Zumba or whatever kind of workout. Or, most places you can still go outside and walk and hike. So take advantage of this opportunity to take a look at how you're eating. Take a look at your sugar and alcohol consumption. Take a look at your caffeine consumption. Take a look at your fat and blah, 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 blah. It's such an opportunity to really evaluate and not be that person on Facebook that said, "Dear liver, hang on because it's going to be a tough time. But, just hang in there with me." Don't be that person. Don't say I'm going to descend into eating everything in sight and drinking myself into oblivion and waiting for my life to start on the other end. Be the person who says, you know what, I'm going to really take on my health right now so that on the other side I can feel like, oh my God, I'm so awesome. I really use this time well, and look at me now. That's how I want to feel. The 7th category, and you can have 100 more categories or 100 different categories, but in this particular podcast, the one I'm offering, number 7, is recreation. What can you guys do to co-create some recreation? If you're allowed to take drives in the country, take drives in the country. If you're only allowed to be inside your own home, think up things that you can do that are fun to do together, whether that's giving each other foot massages. How awesome would that be? Or giving each other hand massages, taking showers together, and, scrubbing each other's hair and bodies. Recreation can look all kinds of ways. Picking out a movie, and every night of the week, a different person gets to pick out a movie that the whole family watches together and eats popcorn. Whatever it is, be creative. In our neighborhood, it's so sweet. So many children have done chalk drawings on their driveways. And so many say, "We love you, friend, stay safe," or, "Good things will happen," or, so many things, "Be well," all kinds of encouraging messages and beautiful pictures. And it's such a delight to walk the dogs and to see those messages. That's recreation. So just think of all the different things that you can do as recreation. Wash your dogs more often. Have a family yard cleanup. And this, what I skipped, number 5, which I'm going to go back to right now, which is household intentions. I mean, we can think of this as work tasks, or we can actually think of it as recreation. So I'm kind of glad there's an overlap here, because some things that we usually think of as household tasks that never get done, most people never have enough time to pull all the weeds in their yard. You could have a contest in your family to see how big a pile you can make together. How big a pile can you make collectively, not competing against one another, but just to setting the goal of how big a pile can we make of weeds. And if it comes up to this level, then the whole family gets to do X, whatever that would be. And it would become a recreation. But there are usually there's usually a fairly long list of household things that don't get done. And I think I talked about this earlier, about decluttering is such a powerful one. such a powerful one. And the feng shui principle of more chi, more life force energy flowing, the more you declutter. And it just makes you feel good. Again, it makes you feel like you've really accomplished something. And on the other end of this pandemic, you could look around and say, wow, our family really hung in there together and really were mutually supportive. And look at our place. Look at how our place now is a place to launch us into a new world where things are cleaner and clearer. And, we get to remember how good that felt and continue it on the other side. And the last one is finances. No, the last one is spiritual development, but I'm going to talk about finances next. It's a time to evaluate how you've been spending your money, how you've been saving your money, how you've been investing your money. It's just a time to take a look at if you have an intention to, in the future, if you don't have any savings, it might be an intention to say, now I realize the benefit of savings. I've never focused on savings, and I'm so glad that recently I started doing it in the last year or so. And I'm hopeful that I have enough savings to make it through this pandemic. But if it were years ago, I would not have had. So my intention is to always have exactly what they say. They tell you have 6 months worth of cash to pay your bills. So it's like you get to reevaluate what you've been doing financially and seeing it as how you've been spending your energy, period. And that's because money is just energy. So evaluate how you've been spending your energy, including your finances. Have you been spending your energy on things that you really don't need? So many people are going to be reevaluating right now that they've been spending their money on Botox and hair dye and pedicures, every week. And maybe you don't need that. And maybe you'll return to it with a vengeance afterwards. I don't know. But just it gives you an opportunity to check out what you've been doing with your finances and to consider what you want to do with them going forward. And the last thing I want to talk about is spiritual development and emotional development. And those things we started out talking about is who do you want to be on the other side and how do you want to get there? And spiritual and emotional development is something that can carry you through any kind of a challenge. I feel like I have been preparing for this pandemic my whole life, especially the last 35 years, when I've been really focusing on emotional and spiritual development. And it is serving me well. I realized that my nurse sister could die of COVID, and my daughter with asthma could die of COVID, and so could I. My husband with heart problems could die. And yet it's like every day I focus on what I can do. How can I make the world a better place? How can I contribute? How can I focus more on listening to my intuitive guidance and not my impulses? It's like I'm dedicated to continuing to develop my spiritual and emotional strength so that I'm even more prepared for each day and to focus on gratitude because I feel capable of doing that. And so I want to encourage you, wherever you are, you may be very far along and have tremendous spiritual and emotional strength, and bravo, and keep going. And you may be at the very beginning of that journey, and bravo to you too, because look where you get to go. Take time to do mindfulness practices every day, whether that's meditating or praying or journaling or, just sitting and listening or drawing a tarot card or an oracle card or however you do it, I Ching. It's like spend time in nature, listening for messages for how to live your life. There are countless ways of doing it. But allow yourself to remember that your own emotional and spiritual growth is your center. That's your center. That's what you're going to return to in times of stress. You're going to return to that spiritual and emotional center. So take time now to keep strengthening it or strengthen it for the very first time. And there are, as I said, so many resources available. So that's it for today, guys. I want you to give yourself these gifts of focusing on what you can intend to build during this time so that you have a structure, you have a focus. Because if your mind doesn't have a focus, it's going to go to all kinds of negative places because you're going to be impacted by the news, by the social media. It's like inundating all day long. But if you have something that you consider to be positive and productive and moving you forward, then you're going to have a structure for your life. And that's going to help you relax. And it's going to help you focus on the progress that you're making. And it's going to help you feel 100 times better during this time. And that's what I wish for you. And I love you. And please be in touch and let me know if there's any way that I can support you. If there are any topics you'd like me to talk about, you can email me. I'm here for you. And I will answer every single email, I promise. So I love you, and I'll talk to you next week.